Steve, welcome.
Hi, am I on?
You are on.
Thank you. Pardon me for being blunt here. I think contrary to the testimony of Representative Phillips, this process was not open or transparent. I was at a majority of the commission meetings. I watched them all. I've read all the testimony and every word of the redistricting website. I made public comments at these meetings more than any other member of the public. And what I've seen is that all the big decisions about redistricting were made in private, secret meetings between legislators, that is, reps and senators, General Assembly leadership, and the consultants. These private, secret meetings allowed legislators to choose their own voters unethically and undemocratically, strengthening their political hold on their elected positions, which is why we see the maps and the information given by Common Cause about the Democratic Party favoritism. Every legislator in this room availed themselves of this service, as far as I can tell, because there are no records of these meetings. These meetings were not recorded. There is no record of when these meetings happened, who had them, or for how long. I know they happened because I've talked to people who have had them. I've talked to Brace Kibble. I made an APRA request for information on these meetings, and there is nothing. There was no meeting. There was no record of these meetings. These meetings occurred in the sub-basement of the State House, where reporters and members of the public were not allowed inside that room at any time. I made a specific request, and I was denied that request to visit that room. Just visit the room. There are all sorts of good guiding principles to govern decisions in redistricting. Aside from following the strictest letter of the law, the one and only guiding principle of the Redistricting Commission was to protect incumbents. Protecting incumbents was the only function of this commission, and anything else accomplished is an accidental byproduct. Further, the one good thing in this legislation, the reallocation of some prisoners at the ACI to their home districts, happened also between meetings. No public meetings were held where commission members discussed among themselves what to do about the prisoner reapportionment. The decision as to how to do that came from the outside, the hearings, between the meetings, probably from State House leadership, and the commission simply approved what they came up with. This idea of a lot of ideas were bandied around, but when they finally voted on it, it wasn't like they voted on something organically out of a discussion. It came down from the top and they approved it. I want to say that when we're looking for how to do redistricting, Providence right now is doing their redistricting, and as of right now, we don't know, it's been a model process. Stuff they're doing there has been really on point, and we should probably adopt a lot of their policies statewide because they've been excellent. I also want to bring up Section 9. This is people are talking about with the district committees. This section may well be 60-year-old boilerplate, the way we've always done things, but we know that the Democratic Party in Rhode Island in the last 6 to 8 years has made some pretty odd moves regarding certain people they don't like. I'm going to say progressives, but it's been other people as well. They endorsed a Trump Republican over a progressive woman in 2018. They declared war on its own Democratic Women's Caucus. And the party could really take lessons in democratic process from the Rhode Island Republican Party as to how they actually govern themselves, which is, I've been to both party meetings, and the Republicans have it all over the Democrats when it comes to democracy. There's no reason to believe that the law as it's currently written could not be used to do all sorts of bad things and could not be abused, and there's every reason to believe that it could be given recent trends in the party. Maybe 10 years ago it was different and everybody got through it all right, and maybe 10 years before that, for the last 6 years, that's been fine. But in the last 6 years, we've seen some big changes and some big attacks because it's coming apart a little bit, right? There's a big tent, and there's a lot of friction there, and people are striking back and forth at each other. And I think we need it to be written very clearly what's in there. It cannot be just, oh, a promise. I mean, on Twitter, Senator Bell says that Rep. Shikarchi, Speaker Shikarchi promised him he would not interfere with his district committee. And all I could ask was on Twitter, I'm asking, well, does that apply to everyone or just you? And he says, well, it's just a promise to me. Is there a binding law that compels him to do this? No, it's just a promise, right? That's not the way we should be doing things. That's kind of weak. And as a quick note, district committees in general, their only job is endorsing candidates and placing stars on ballots. That should be abolished along with those little stars, right? We don't need those little stars in endorsements. I mean, that would get rid of this whole problem. And finally, also, the land grab perpetuated by Senator Archambault to expand his district needs to be addressed. It smacks of the worst kind of partisanship and insider politics. It appeared at the very last meeting, the very last, was voted on like that. The maps were revealed a half hour late in that meeting and voted on like a half hour later. So the process was awful. And the reason I'm bringing this to the public this way is because I really want, when the public looks back on this 10 years and says, hey, what can we do different? Maybe they'll look back and hear this and say, wow, maybe there was some things we could do different. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any members of the committee have questions for Mr. Alquist? Representative McGaugh?
Actually, it's the question regarding the viewing of the room. And you said you put in a request. Is there a reason, Mr. Brace, that he was not permitted to visit the room?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Well, it was on a phone call with you that I asked to visit the room and I was told no. I was in the State House at the time. I thought about just going down and knocking the door and entering anyway, but I decided not to do that. I thought it'd be nicer to, not be that guy.
Okay.